In this video, we're going to take a look at our Plasmagun logic. Just like the minigun, we have two events, Plasmagun fire and Plasmagun fire release. For the most part, it is the same and is a combination of logics for the previous weapons, with the difference that this time we are spawning the projectile. So as always, first of all we check the weapon will fire condition and the ammo in the clip. And then we check the automatic reload and auto switch weapons conditions. Then we set weapon will fire to 0 and Plasmagun shooting state to 1, just like in the minigun logic. We play the Plasmagun shoot 1 animation, and which is the beginning of the shooting animations. And next we spawn the projectile. Let's take a quick look at the projectile. Here we have event hit. So whenever we hit something, a sequence of events happen. We also have the break hit results, as always. However, it is very important. We need to make sure that our collision component returns material on the move. If we don't have this box checked, then we will not return the physical material information, and the plasma hit FX will not work, because every time that it will check the surface type, it will return the default value. Then we apply damage, check if our target is simulating physics, add impulse at location equal to the velocity of our projectile. You can adjust this value by multiplying it by float. And the location is our actor location. Oh, and we also have bone name that we get from the hit results. This way the impulse is added to the bone that we hit. Next we spawn emitter at location. Notice that, just like before, whether we add impulse at location or not, we go to this spawn emitter at location. It's the same thing as before in all of the fire logic. It's just arranged a little bit differently, so it looks a little bit different. A delay, after which we deactivate the plasma particles, and then we destroy the projectile. We destroy the actor. Let's take a look at the components. Our collision component is set to object type myRockets. This is an object type that I created for all of our projectiles. You can add object types in Edit, Project Settings, and type object channels. The projectile is there by default. We also have myRockets and Rocket Splash. We will see this one when we review the rocket projectile. And it has a default response. This means that whenever we add new object type, all of the rest of the objects must have default response to it. So myRockets are being blocked by default by all of the objects in the project. So if we hit anything with myRocket, it will collide with it. It is set to ignore the pawn but not the physics body, so that we hit the physics body and not the capsule collision component for our monsters. And our own collision capsule component is set to ignore my rockets so that we don't collide with our own projectiles. If we set this to block, and if we set our plasma projectile to block pawn, in this case, we will collide with our own projectiles. So in order not to have this, we have to set our collision back to ignoring my rockets. Let's get back to our main logic. So we spawn this projectile at the word location of spawn sphere. We have the spawn sphere in our components list. Here it is. In the viewport, we can see it here. However, if you want event graph, if you want it to be spawned precisely at the center of the screen, you can connect this node here this way. So this gets the location of first-person camera, its location, its rotation, and we also need to add this gun offset, which brings the spawn point a little bit further from the center of our actor. Let's take a look. Now, as you can see, we're clearly spawning the projectiles right at the center. This is more convenient, however, it doesn't look as natural. So you can choose one way or another. Let's get back to our original setup and compare. As you can see, this one looks more natural. However, this way, if we shoot from a corner, you can see the difference. Because the sphere is located a little bit to our right. It is also a little bit lower than the center. This is not much of a problem with the Plasmagun, but for the bazooka, this brings some complications, as you might explode yourself unexpectedly. The bazooka has the same setup, but we will see it later. So we spawn the projectile and spawn the emitter attached for the flash. You can see a disconnected node for the animation. I didn't really like the looks of it in the end, and I decided to keep it disconnected. However, we can see how it looks like. This is Plasmagun Shoot 2 animation. Change our preview mesh. So it is a very short animation, simply moving the Plasmagun back a little bit. Back to the main logic. Let's take a look how it looks. You can see now when we shoot, we see this shaking. So if you want, you can add this functionality and replace this animation with something else, and adjust these animations in the source files, for example. However, I have left it the way it left it out. Next, when we spawn the emitter attached, we also set the world scale 3D for it, just to scale it down a little bit because it was too big overall. Then we set our ammo clip, subtracting 1 from the current value, spawn sound attached, and make noise. And then we have this delay that represents the fire rate.